It is a part of Power Platform ALM, Application Lifecycle Management, and it is meant for both makers and developers. So that's that. I'm not sure if it is going to be 30 minutes, depends on your Q&A and my demo. But my demo is pre-configured. I'll just walk you through it. Next up is what it is, prerequisites, current limitations, and how do you do it. So first up is what it is. What are Power Pipelines? So this is my definition, basically. Automate solution deployment. That's what Power Pipelines do. All of us must be aware of solutions. We create solutions, then we move it, like we export it, then import it to the next environment, then to the next, and so on and so forth, right? This is the definition by Microsoft, which tells the same thing but differently. So that's that. I've provided some URLs at the end of this slide deck, which you can refer to if you want to learn more, but that's Microsoft. That's me. Just automating solution deployment. It can save you a lot of time and you can work on something else while that's happening. Okay. Before I even get into prerequisites, let me tell you this feature is in preview. So do not think of enabling it for any customer. This is a preview feature and we don't use it unless it's generally available. So you can play with it in your own tenants and environments, but not for clients. Okay. The prerequisites are that your environment must be a managed environment. Now, if you don't know about it, you will have to read about managed environments. I provided a link at the end. You can go and read about it. It is, you must have the security role. So if you're a system admin, you obviously have rights to do anything in the environment. But let's say you're working with a huge team, there are 20 people, and there's one person, for example, Ralph, in this case, who would be responsible for deployments, right? So Ralph, in that case, must have either a Power Platform admin role and Dataverse or Dataverse admin role. Now, this is a prerequisite to be able to see it, but to be able to manage the pipelines, there are two other security roles, and one of them, depending on the role, must be assigned. So minimum 3 environments, recommended of 4. So Microsoft says we recommend having 4 environments, but you can start with 3, and that's when it will make sense. Okay. It must have a Dataverse database. So as much as it's common, but you can create environments without Dataverse in it, right? So that's why this is a prerequisite. Current limitation, it doesn't work with, so when you create a new environment, you can select the type of the environment. So it doesn't work with type developer. So it has to be production or sandbox for you to work on pipelines. It does not work on environments in different geolocations. So for example, my environment is in Australia and Christians is in the US. I won't be able to deploy my dev to Christian's test environment because it's a different geolocation and that's what we registered. D4T is not supported, which means Dataverse for Teams is not supported. So if you've got an environment which is for Dataverse for Teams, that won't be supported. And this is a preview feature, so it's just to play around, not in real life as of now. I don't know when it is going to be GA, but maybe there are dates somewhere. All right, with that, we will move on to demo. So to be able to understand this demo, we must all be clear on what environments are. And when I say minimum 3 environments, that means your dev, test, and production. But even before you can start working on it, you need to create another environment just for these pipeline tables. You will have to create another environment. Okay. That's how Microsoft has said it, so that the tables created does not impact your current Dataverse architecture. Okay, so let me just talk about a few good things here. Okay, so now you will see I'm in the admin center, and all of these, I can see everyone's environments because I'm a global admin. But manage says no, right? So if your question is how do I make it managed? It is simple. Let me check this. So the moment you select an environment, you get this enable managed environment, and then you can click on it. It is giving me an error because this one doesn't have data verse, but this is what you see, and you can just click on enable the different options. Again, I provided a link. You can read about managed environments. What I have done in this case, I have picked up this this environment as my dev because it was in Australia. And then I have picked up EDMS Sandbox as my test, and then EDMS Prod as my production. That's in Australia as well. So those are my environments. Then what I did is clicked on new. This is how I do demo. So do not expect me to literally create things. I've created an environment, which is of type production. That's how you would be doing. Now, for this host environment, if you refer to my slides, I've said create a host environment for pipelines, right? For this host environment, you do not need to make it a managed environment. It can work just like this. So what I did, clicked on new, selected the types. You'll see there are other types as well, but only sandbox and production will work. For our case, this one definitely must be a production environment for pipelines. I've created it. And once it was created, what I did then is went to resources, clicked on Dynamics 365 apps, and then clicked on install app. It gave me all the options. One of the apps which we must install is called this one, Power Platform Pipelines. Okay, so that's what I did to create my host environment for pipelines. Once this is a one-time job, once it's done, so you can see here, I've written install D365 app. The app is called Power Platform Pipelines. And then what I did is, this is my environment here, pipelines. So if I go to the apps here, you'll see that the app is installed. Model-driven app. And when I open this app, this is what opens up. Now to set this up, that is super simple. I've got how many environments other than the host environment? I've got 3 environments. One is Lawrence's environment, which is my dev, then EDMS Sandbox, and EDMS Production. Those are my 3 environments. So I've listed that here. Okay, so all you do is click on new, and then you enter the name of the environment, the type. There are 2 types here, development or target. So dev is dev, but this sandbox, production, pre-prod, whatever you want to call it, will all be target environment, right? And then you need your environment ID. How do you get your environment ID? Is you just click on, let's say this environment. I'll go to all environments. So when we click on any environment, we get to see the environment ID here. There can be other ways of looking at environment ID too, but that's what I'll copy, and I've created all 3 environments. Okay, so dev, test, and prod are created. Then the last step was pipelines. So I've built a deployment pipeline. Here, the details you were to provide, I can provide a description. I just called it EDMS deployment pipeline. Which one is my dev environment? So all I did was add existing and selected my dev environment from here. And then the last one was what would be the stages. So in this case, I have done new deployment stages because in the previous step, I haven't done a stage, right? So the stage is basically, for example, in this case, I've said to test environment, use this stage, to production, use this stage, right? So when you click on it, you give it a name. Is there a previous stage, right? So when I did it for test, there was no previous stage because from dev, it's directly coming to test. But from test, I want a dependency to prod. So if I'm creating this stage for production, my previous deployment stage would be the test environment stage, to test environment, right? So that's how you do it. And then you select the deployment environment ID, which we created earlier here. Okay, so you just select it. Cancel. If I now open this one to production, you will see that I've got a stage there. To production. Previous stage is to test environment. Okay, so once we have done this, now you can have multiple pipelines. Okay, this is one. Let's say you want to have 3 different pipelines depending on whether you are doing a solution full of cloud flows or you're doing a solution which is a mix of tables, forms, and cloud flows, or just tables and forms. So you can have any number of pipelines here. Then next up is we will now see how it works. So this was my host environment. I only opened this to show you the app which is created after installing it. Now, if I go to my dev environment, which was this, and go to solutions. Now, I created a solution called Pipeline Demo, and I only did it 2 hours ago. That's where everywhere it says 2 hours ago. But this is a very simple solution. All I did is added task just as a table and nothing in it, okay? But on the left-hand side, you can see there's a new option here called pipelines. So when I go to pipelines, and currently there's only one, right? And also I've said this because I already ran it. So you will have multiple pipelines listed here. When you first time go in a solution, you can select your pipeline and then you can run it. Now you can see the stages I've got. If you had 5 stages, you will see 5 stages. Okay. In this case, I had 2 deployment stages, and I can see from this dev environment, the next step is to test environment, and after that, it's to prod. So what I did 2 hours ago is this button was enabled. So I clicked on deploy here, and then I clicked on deploy here after this was successful, right? So why this one is disabled? Because as of now, there are no changes in the test environment. So you can't deploy in prod. So you first need to deploy in test. So that's how it's bounding it. This is very similar to how we do CI/CD in DevOps to build the pipeline and things like that, right? So it's very similar, but very visual. So a non-technical person can understand it. Even Mira will be able to do it. That's why in slide 1, it said, where is it? It said both makers and devs can use it. So if you want to do it the way you currently do it, you can do it. But I would encourage everyone who are doing manual solutions to don't do manual after this is generally available. Do it this way, and only when you receive an error, that's when you try to do manual so that you can get the error, like what's the log file saying. Okay, so that is all. My solution, as you saw, it only has one object, which is task. Pretty straightforward, no customization. It took about 20 minutes to say this is success, and maybe 18 minutes to say this is success to deploy the solution. So a total of less than 40 minutes in 2 environments. Okay. Then I've done this. Yeah, here I put a note that there were 2 new security roles created because of the app. So you can provide someone to be able to create the pipelines, but there's another role that you can have a pipeline admin. So 2 roles are created when you install this app. Then I've provided you overview of pipelines here. You can click on the link. I'll upload this on Teams, BBS, and the second one is water managed environment, so you can learn about it if you want to. And that is it.